words and the things they use are increasing it. So this symbolic sihr is a problem for raqis. Why? Because Rasulullah when that sihr was done to him, he was making dua. Said Aisha radiallahu anha says that وَلَكِنَّهُ دَعَا وَدَعَا ثُمَّ دَعَا وَدَعَا ثُمَّ دَعَا وَدَعَا. But he made dua and dua, and he made dua and dua, and he made dua and dua. And then he said, "Oh Aisha, do you know that Allah Ta'ala has given me the answer to my request?" So Rasulullah he had to make a lot and a lot and a lot of dua before Allah Ta'ala relieved him from that situation, you see. And he said, so the angels came and the angel explained to him what has happened. So he went with the Sahaba and he extracted it from the well and he took those knots and read Al-Falaq and Nas, and it happened to be 11 knots, and Al-Falaq has 5 verses and Nas has 6 verses, so that's 11. So at every verse one knot will open and he will get it better and better until he was completely well. So now the problem for us is that first of all we don't have the angels to tell us what's happening, and secondly, even if we know where is the thing, so mostly we cannot extract it. Mostly, and in our days, it is very difficult that sorcerers will put that somewhere where you can find it. They can just flush it in the toilet, they can throw it in the sea or the river Thames. How are we going to find it? And subhanAllah, for example, in Africa, in some places, they go in the mountain and they put it under stones. But if you go to the mountain, in each stone you will find many sihr. So how can you recognize yours? Yeah?
Does it make it stronger when I hear a lot, especially in North Africa, where the sahir will get the sihr and put it in the mouth of a dead person.
Yeah.
And that person will be buried, and does it make it stronger, or is that?
Yeah, no, it makes it stronger to put it in the mouth of a dead person. And the sihr, like everything that is linked to death, they like that a lot. I have a friend, he wanted to his father died in Tunisia, and he went, and when he arrived, they already had closed the kafan. And he said, no, I want to see my dad before he's buried. And they opened and he kissed his dad, and his mouth was sewed. And he said, what's happening to my father? Did you do an operation? He said, no. And they opened the sewing, they found the sihr inside his mouth. So they pay because the people that do the kafan and bury the people and take care of the cemetery, they're poor people. So if you give them some money to put this and that inside, or to give you some parts of the body or some parts of this and that, they'll do it. Because it is money. I'll tell you a story. When I was in Morocco, I gave a course of Rukja to some imams, and the imam told me that once the government made built a road on the cemetery, and they changed the place of the cemetery, and every grave they opened, they found it plenty of sihr, plenty of ta'wiz, juju, grigri, as you want to call them. There's plenty of them. So, and those people who are working, they say we can't touch these things, and so they call the imams to come and collect them and do whatever they want. They would do that. See, plenty. Every grave, they find it. Allah help us. So there's plenty of it. So now the problem is what? Is that first of all, we don't have the angels to tell us what's happening. Second, even if we do know where it is, so mostly we cannot extract it. So the third thing that Rasulullah has left us, in this case, is dua. So that's what we can do. We can make dua, and so that Allah Ta'ala will give us a solution. And this is a general solution in the Rukja. Whatever situation you may find where you have no clue, you're going to make dua until Allah Ta'ala gives you a clue. And inshallah it's going to always work. So whatever happens when you're stuck, just keep on making dua until Allah Ta'ala will give you a clue. So, what was I saying? So I'm going to give you some other methods just to explain to you so that you understand how difficult it is. So first of all, if you look in Salam al-Battar, how do you say it? The cutting sword, is that it? How to translate it for Wahid Abdul Salam Bali? Yes, Sword Against Black Magic and Evil Magicians, of Wahid Abdul Salam Bali. That's the most famous book on the Rukja. So he would say, you must read the Quran on the person until the jinn speaks, and once the jinn speaks, you ask him to become Muslim, and if he does not want to become Muslim, well, okay, but ask him now, where is the sihr? And when he will tell you where is the sihr, you will go and take that sihr, and if you don't find it, so now you're going to bring the patient again, and read again, and bring the jinn again, and this time you tell him that he better tell you the truth, or it's going to not be well with him. So you're going to insist so that he tells you the truth about the sihr, and now you can go and relate it. So this method, brothers and sisters, is nearly impossible. Nearly impossible. Because most of the time, the jinn will not speak through the patient. And even if the jinn does speak through the patient, it is nearly impossible that he will tell you where the sihr is. And just imagine that it's in a tree in the forest. How can you recognize that tree? How are you going to do? How are you going to? How can it tell you go in the forest, go 1 mile, then turn left and go another 200 yards, and there's one big tree on your left? How can you identify a tree in a forest? You see? And if it is just he just walks on the bridge on the river Thames and throws it in the river. So how are you going to find it now? You think you're going to dive in the river and look for the sihr, and when you reach there, you will find hundreds of sihr. So which one you're going to look and take? So it's practically impossible. And sometimes they just put it in the toilet and flush it down. And sometimes there's one place, there's a road to be built, and the guy put the sihr in that place, and then some days after the road was built on top. So are you going to break the road to look for the sihr, etc.? So it is practically impossible. And another method, I saw a guy, he was in Mauritius Island, and he was digging the sihr out. He was in, and he told me, yes, and I want to see how it works. And he said, yeah, tonight we're going to go dig the sihr out. I said, okay. And he said, we're treating this person, and his sihr has been buried on the beach. I said, okay, how did you know that? He said, well, you must say, Ya Alim Allimni, Ya Hakim Fahimni, and the third one I forgot, 1,000 times. Well, I said, 1,000 times? For one person? For one sihr? He says, yes. Wow. MashaAllah. So we went, and he digged, and he was pouring water and reading Quran and pouring water into Quran until it came out, until he found the sihr. And it was a ball of, of wax. It was a ball of wax. That means they put the sihr and they put a candle on top, and they let all that candle melt around it, and it makes a ball of wax. So even if it stays a very long time, it will always be protected by the wax. And we went back home, and we opened the wax, and then there was bags inside, and we opened the bags, and we got to the paper, and the paper, there was the name of the guy. He was on that paper. So it was really his sihr. And all the plan of sihr that has been made to him, it was Hindu sihr, etc., everything. It was all written. And he told me, now, in order to do that, you must get up at midnight, and you say, Ya Allahu, Ya Rahmanu, Ya Rahimu, Ya Maliku, all through 99 names, 11 times. 11 times, 99 names, at midnight every night? Oh man. I said, this is very difficult. Your method is so difficult. I said, how many people do you treat a week? He said, 3 people a week. All right. How long you've been doing this method? He said, now 10 years. I said, well, how many people did you train? He said, not one. So this is so difficult. I said, your method is too difficult. He told me, yes, but it is sunnah to dig the sihr out. I said, yes, it is sunnah. Alhamdulillah. It is sunnah. But really, this sunnah is too difficult for me. I prefer to it otherwise. You see? So this is to show you how complicated it is. This symbolic sihr. And now, I'm going to tell you what we were doing in the beginning. This is all reaching to, the method is very simple, but you have to understand the background of it. So in the beginning, I started treating slowly and getting into the field. And we had a lady, she had sihr on a tree. And when we treat her with water, because the basic of the treatment is washing with water. So when we treat her with water, the sihr will come off her and will stay in the tree, and after 2 days it will come back on her. So and at that time we had a patient who had an army of jinns that have become Muslim. So we told them, could they remove it? So they went to remove it, and they said, no, there are some other jinns keeping that sihr guardians, and you can't remove it. So we didn't have any clue. And I told the husband of the lady to make dua that Allah Ta'ala gives us a solution. And he made dua, and next day the jinns came and they said they went to remove the sihr, and there were some angels that came and helped those bad jinns that were keeping the guardians, and they managed to remove the sihr. Alhamdulillah, that case was solved. And then we had another similar case, and we said to the guy to make dua, and the jinns came next day, said they went, but no angels came, and they couldn't remove the sihr. So I said, subhanallah, do we need that angels will come down for each patient in order to get him cured? So this is very difficult, very difficult. Is any patient capable of making dua until angels come down? So this is not a way of treating people. This is a way of making miracles. So I called the guy with which my sheikh, with which I learned, and I told him, what do we do when the sihr is in a tree? He said, well, just she will wash with the Quranic water, and that water she will throw on a tree, any tree, with the intention of throwing on the sihr that has been made onto her. And we did it, and it worked. Alhamdulillah, no need for jinns, no need for angels, no need for nothing. Once you know that the sihr is in a tree, then how can you know that? You know that because you're going to be dreaming of yourself flying or falling or climbing, or in an airplane or high place you're afraid to fall, or when you go to sleep you just feel yourself falling. All that shows that the sihr has been made somewhere high. So once you know that, the water you're going to wash with, you collect that water and you throw it in any tree. Just you make intention as if you have found the sihr, and you're throwing the water on it, and it will go. MashaAllah. That was so easy, so halal, so no problem, no need for jinns, no need for this and that. And we started multiplying this kind of thing. So if the sihr is in the water, you'll take the water to the river Thames and just pour it inside, or if you have a pond near you. And if the sihr is in a graveyard, so instead of how do you say, digging in the graveyard, just take that water, any grave, you pour the water, and you just think that your sihr is here, you're pouring it on it, and it will go, etc., etc., etc. So I was for some time doing this method, and then it made a lot of fuss and a lot of discussion. Because people go to Maulanas and to Imams, say, Abdurrahman sent me to cemetery, Abdurrahman told me to do this, to do that, and say, oh, that is sihr. It is the Sahirs who do that. That is the same thing as sihr. Now we have to explain. No, it is similar. But it is the intention to remove the sihr. There's no sihr in that. It's like Musa alayhi salam. He threw the stick, and the Sahir threw the sticks. So they did the same thing, but they were doing it with shaitan. He was doing it with the power of Allah, and the action was the same, but the intention is not the same, etc. But it was too much fuss, too much discussion, and it was making too many problems. So we switched totally that method. We switched totally to a different method, which is what? Which is verses of Quran. So for each kind of sihr, we will take a verse of Quran and add it in the water for bathing. For example, if the sihr is in a cemetery, we take وَمَنْ كَانَ مَيِّتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ كَمَنْ مَثَلُهُ فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِنْهَا. And if the sihr, and we add it in the water, either by reading it 11 times or by writing it and diluting it in the water of the person. If it is on a tree, we take وَعِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُوَ وَيَعْلَمُ مَا فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ وَمَا تَسْقُطُ مِنْ وَرَقَةٍ إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا, and we add it, etc. So we have 45 verses for 45 different kinds of sihr that we add in the water, and the person will just wash with it, and it's finished. No going to cemetery, no going to river, no taking knots, no taking photos, no doing anything else. And I give you an example. When I reached Abidjan, Ivory Coast, many patients were dreaming of fish. Just to give another example, I did in 2006 one tour of Rukja training, and I started in Niger Republic. In Niger, there's a river, and people were seeing the river in their dreams. And then I went to Burkina Faso. In Burkina Faso, there's a lake. How do you call that? Barrage. A barrage. There's a barrage, and people were dreaming about the barrage. And then I went to Ivory Coast, and there's a lagoon. You say lagoon? Laguna? There's a laguna, and people were dreaming about the laguna. That means that in Niger, people throw the sihr in the river. In Burkina, they throw it in the barrage. And in Ivory Coast, they throw it in a laguna. And because they throw it there, and there's your photo, or your identity, or your hair, or your cloth, or something, so you see yourself in that water. You see yourself in that place. That's how it's working. It is symbolically putting you in that thing, you see? And it's making that